And welcome in everybody to the Summit City Sports Report. This is number 6 on the year. Joining me as always is Tim Atkinson, and we have Bishop Dwenger, head coach Jason Garrett. And Coach Garrett, you knew it was coming. It's a tough way to start the season. Brownsburg just beat Cathedral. They're the number 1 ranked team in the state of Indiana in 6A. And then obviously Cincinnati Moeller, one of the top teams over there in Ohio. But after 2 weeks, how are you feeling about your team right now after those 2 games?
Well, we talk a lot about culture. We talk a lot about the process. And I couldn't have been more proud after Friday night's performance against Moeller. Despite a couple injuries, and then we had some late game turnovers. It's 21-18 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. And I told the guys at the end of the day, there's a lot of reasons why we, have the strength of schedule that we have. And it's about the process. It's about, building trust in one another. It's about evaluating things. And I feel like we checked all the boxes. And at the end of the day, their trust in one another, their toughness, their resiliency, the willingness to, come back after a tough loss down at Brownsburg, and to fight as hard as they did and do some really good things on both sides of the ball, all 3 facets, really. I felt very, 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 very proud of those guys Friday night.
And Coach, how long do you have your week 1 and week 2 opponents already scheduled for the 2025 season?
Yeah, so so we'll have 2 new opponents. We'll have Chittard. We'll do a home and away with Chittard, and the team in Toledo, the name's leaving me. Isn't that crazy? It's a home and away with a well-established team over in Toledo. So, again, 2 great opponents to start our year off with.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about too. It's the Catholic school out of Toledo.
Yeah.
Toledo Central Catholic.
I don't think it's Central Catholic. LaSalle, I think. It's on the east side.
Okay.
We picked them up about a year and a half ago. Yeah, I'll get that name to you. But they're built a lot like Moeller, all boys school. A lot of tradition there coming out of Toledo. So, it gives it's an opportunity for our guys to, when we're away, get on the road, bring a new school into town. High level opponent. It's all things we're looking for in those first 2 weeks.
Coach Tim and I were talking about this before the show, and I had actually mentioned Chittard. Was it important for you to get 2 other Catholic programs on the schedule?
I think that's something that we had desired to do. I think as we talked about it, I think, going back to the days when I was working with, Chris Schwarzkopf and the staff, it was, trying to get Chittard, Roncalli, Cathedral, those kinds of schools back in the day. We went over to Cincinnati and played LaSalle there. So I think there's great value in that for us. These first 2 years, obviously Brownsburg came along and it was available and they were open to us, and it kind of fit the philosophy that we felt was important. And obviously, number 1 team in the state, essentially 2 years in a row. And then Moeller had been a long time, sought after opponent, going back to the days when we went to LaSalle and things like that. And that came open. So that gave us that, that Catholic school, all boys school, obviously a little different enrollment and things like that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of mystique in that. I think it's a great way for us to go a high level opponent and another Catholic school in the area for sure.
Yeah, Coach, speaking on appreciate you joining us here tonight on Last Minute. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always good to get the head coach's perspective and kind of a laid back atmosphere, quote unquote, interview, I guess, in the friendly confines. But injuries, you mentioned it. It starts with Ryan Groves. You haven't even had Ryan Groves suit up for you this year. He's a high level defensive player. You had your starting quarterback in Henry Jordan go down. I believe it was in the first quarter against Moeller. And the sophomore Nick O'Keefe stepped to the plate and played a nice game. I watched that first half today on replay. It seems like you have a lot of good balance on your team this year. It's not maybe the Christian Lozado, Carter Minix, those quote unquote superstars, if you want to call it that. This just looks like a well-rounded and deep football team, Coach.
Yeah, I think that's well said. We have probably one of our smallest senior classes that I can remember as long as I've been, coaching back at Dwenger. So that goes back many years. 19 seniors, and we'll lose one of those seniors. Actually, our punter, Braden Aguirre, will have some surgery related to another sport coming up this week. So 18 seniors that are active, and then to your point, Tim, a really strong, talented, close-knit junior and sophomore class. And rolling into the postseason last year, well, throughout our season, but in particular the postseason, a lot of those guys you're talking about, were kind of thrown to the wolves in our postseason, a lot of injuries. And I think there were moments even in that Leo game, we had 8 sophomores on defense. Going to Moeller last year, I think we had 3 or 4 sophomores on defense. So they've weathered a lot of storms. As the old saying goes, there's no greater teacher than experience. So right. To your point, I think there's a lot of balance. I think there's a lot of guys that have been under the Friday night lights. A lot of them are related. Tim, you appreciate that. Jeff, a lot of our guys are related, they're cousins and otherwise. So they've been playing together for a while. And I think that shows. And, to the point on Friday night, it was one of those nights, kind of falling all over the place. And next guy in, and we hung in there for a good while and went toe-to-toe with them with some younger guys. And, that's a testament. You speak to our depth as well. It's probably one of the deeper teams we've had in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, the depth, it really jumps out in the page to me. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people don't realize they're only going to hear a couple of Tippmann names. It's those last names that are married to Tippmann women.
You got that,
that are going to throw people off. They're saying, well, there's not that many out there. Well, trust us, there's a ton out there. Speaking of one of them that had an outstanding first half, at Houston Ellinger. You guys played him coming off the edge a lot. His read and react is pretty special. He's got great pedigree, of course, and his father, Todd, who's on his special teams coach for you guys, a great player at Snyder High School. He's a Tippmann as well. But talk about, he really jumped off the screen at me watching that Moeller game.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You hit on the head. I think he was, in a lot of ways you could argue, player of the game. I mean, we call that our ranger position. That's kind of that, those strong safeties that are setting the edge in our 3-3. And, they got to do a lot. They're setting the edge. They're playing the run. They're playing the pass. They got D-gap responsibility. They got to fill. It's usually those guys that can, as college coaches come in, can they play in the box and can they play in the back end? And Houston took he was thrown to the fire last year, and this was really his coming out game. We talked about it again today. Told him how proud I was of him. His reads, kind of understanding his position. Coach Nepper's done an outstanding job. You're rolling in different athletes year to year and trying to uphold a scheme and develop a scheme. And he's really simplified things. I think we saw it from the Brownsburg game to last Friday. Guys able to play faster, trusting, where they're supposed to be and what they're doing. And Houston was a testament to that. Locked in as a Ranger and definitely, as I said, had the game of his career thus far as a junior. So proud of him. Had some big hits as well. We're just going to keep developing those guys. We started that game with 2 sophomore corners. Nick O'Keefe started as a sophomore corner against Moeller, in Brownsburg. So and then flips to quarterback. So some talented guys. It's just kind of weathering some storms here and, continue to get better in the process.
Yeah, your other sophomore cornerback there, Carter Zent, transfer from Carroll. Finally, his dad brought him back to his alma mater. Thanks,
Amen. Dad. Yeah, right. Where you belong.
That's Judge Zent for you guys out there. So what a statement that is, and the confidence that you guys have in those two sophomores at the edge. But now, Coach, you got to regroup. I believe Henry Jordan is out for some time, or is he scheduled to play this Friday?
It's likely that he's out. To be honest, he's got an appointment Friday. He's gotten better. He was walking around pretty good today. Right now it's just kind of day to day. I don't anticipate him playing Friday. His appointment is Friday early in the afternoon, and we'll know more then. But it doesn't look to be anything real serious. It may be some things that we need to, strengthen or whatever, brace or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but yeah. Nick O'Keefe, takes the reins, and so we were blessed to have a senior roll into corner and have the game of his life, which is another great story. Paul Baumgartner. So he had an injury a year ago that basically sidelined him, and then actually carried over into baseball. He plays baseball as well, and was able to play a little bit at the end of the year of baseball, and weren't sure if he was going to play, and got the big hit award this week. I think he had 9 tackles. So we had another guy step up, and in this case, it was a senior. And to be a senior, rolling in as a, second guy, third guy in at corner, and then to roll into Moeller and have the game of his life, that was outstanding as well.
Coach, how do you feel like the senior leadership is with this year's squad? Like you said, a lot of injuries to start the season. You're a young team. I counted only 6 seniors starting this Friday, projected to start. But that's not a whole lot of seniors in your starting lineup. But the seniors that you do have, do you feel like they bring a lot of leadership? Do you feel like the younger kids are really benefiting from it?
I do. And you bring a great point, and we talk about it all the time. It goes back to culture, and these guys love each other. They fight for each other. At Dwenger, it's always next man up, and all those things. It's very competitive. But those other guys that are not starting, I think about last week. I'm wearing the shirt. We give out, scout team players of the week. It's the old story of the corporal sitting in the restaurant, and this guy keeps looking at him, and finally a guy walks over and he's like, do I know you? And he's like, well, I don't know. He says, yeah, you're Corporal so-and-so. And he said, well, how do you know that? He said, well, didn't you get shot down? I forget what war it was. I'm botching the story, but basically the guy got shot down over some water in a war. And he's like, yeah, that was me. He goes, how'd you know that? He goes, I packed your parachute. And we awarded 3 seniors the scout team players of the week last week. So those guys are in there. They're doing the jobs that they're asked to do, and those are things that make up championship teams. When you got guys like that, I mentioned Paul. We got other guys. If their opportunity comes, I believe they'll be fully ready. Luke Harvard jumped in there and played a little linebacker last week. Mason Vogelweed, when Andrew Tryon went down last week, Mason Vogelweed went in and played left tackle, and daggone, he graded out pretty darn good, and so we just got a great group of guys, and they embrace the younger guys, and so it's humbling to be a part of that. It gets me a little emotional as a dad. You think about that. It's kind of like your older kids taking care of your younger ones, and we love it. So I'm very proud, and it's a kind of a small, quiet group. We do some senior leadership stuff throughout the summer, and spend a day with those guys, and it was one of the most enjoyable days I've had in a long time. We go out and do some team building, and then they do some aerial challenge events, and they challenge each other. And so it's a great group. Jeff, Tim, great group of guys, and they're quiet leaders, but they're great leaders,
And Coach, we know that that's kind of always been the mantra of Bishop Dwenger football. It's kind of the we, not me type mentality. Has that been hard to keep going ever since you took over as head coach and you're now in your 7th year at the school? Do you feel like that is hard to do, or it's more of just a consistent day-to-day grind with the program?
That's a great question. I hadn't thought of it. I'll tell you one thing that comes to mind as far as I think the greatest challenge, and it's probably been more unspoken, and I'll speak about it now, I guess, but just, we had a lot of success early. A lot of that is due to, Coach Schwarzkopf and, all the things that he instilled. And, I somehow God allowed me to be in the position to try to carry the torch, and, had some great coaches come and go, and a lot of success early. And, as I think about that question, Jeff, it's when we rolled into 5A, initially, hey, great challenge, let's take it on. There wasn't there wasn't a false bravado, there wasn't anything like false pride or anything, but hey, all right, this is our challenge, this is what we got to do, and let's go. And then in 19 we lose 10-7 up in Valpo, and got a lot of great kids on that team, and then the next 2 years we end up losing regionals at Zionsville, and then we get to that, now we got Snyder in our sectional, and the demographics of things kind of change, right? And so the challenge becomes greater. And I felt like that fourth year that we were in 5A, it's a heavy load to carry. When you just, I like, my boys have always wrestled, you wrestle up during the season, and then you're wrestling your own weight, in the postseason, and that helps you, and I think it did. I think it does. But I think over the duration of that time, the wins and losses, things like that, especially the last 2 years, the last year with 5A, and then last year, I think it had a little bit of toll. It took a little bit of toll on our guys, the projection. I think it's kind of our culture too. We preach process in the face of a culture that preaches outcomes all the time. And, that's a lot of in our conversation the last 2 weeks and things is, we are about the process, and the process is tough. And, going through 5A for 4 years and then having to almost get litigation to, stay out of 5A for a fifth year. That's another story for another time. But that was a rough road, man. And, it doesn't slow down. You know what I mean? It does, so. And you got young guys, and the culture is different, what they're looking for in schools and what they're looking for in wins and losses, whether it be parents or otherwise. It's just, the outcomes. And we've been able, with our coaching staff and our guys, I think our families and the traditions, is stay the course. This week it's about the buffalo, man. The buffalo story, if you know it, there's cows and buffaloes, and cows have an instinct from God that when the storm's coming over the Rocky Mountains, they turn away from the storm and start walking. And so they have to endure the storm a lot longer and a lot harder. The buffalo, they herd up. And after they get herded up, they go as fast as they can together, as hard as they can, right at the storm. And so this week, Dwenger will be modeling some buffaloes on their helmets, because we're going at the storm, and that's the way we roll. We've got guys that are embracing that, and thanks be to God, the Lord's inspired us all to stay the course. But I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what came to mind. Is that was the greatest challenge, the last couple of years, coming out of 5A back into 4A. The trust, being able to fight our own weight, and in a certain sense, have a fighting chance, right, against some of these larger schools and bigger enrollments and things.
And Coach, we know, especially now having talked with different coaches throughout the state, they all talk about their feeder systems, and gosh, even at Lawrence North, they've got a battle with Lawrence Central and Warren Central for some of their kids. But obviously Tim and I are ingrained in the CYO. And the last couple of years, it's kind of been a little bit of a head scratcher over at St. Vincent's, with some of their numbers being down. And most people know that St. Vincent's is the largest parish in the Fort Wayne South Bend diocese.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's kind of taken its toll a little bit on the program, as far as maybe some depth could be concerned?
No doubt. No doubt. And as to why, I don't know. Our enrollment in general, when we left the spring this past year, it was projected to be well under 900 total. When we were blessed to win the state championship in 18, we had 1080.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, it adding on. And, then all the events of 2020 happened. And I think that's had an impact for sure. We have a certain demographic where I think some families chose to homeschool. Maybe they chose to go a different route. One second. Love you. Good night. And so, to project that and then, so that tells, now we're sitting at, 400 whatever it is, young men, and instead of, 500 plus. And to your point as well, then the feeder schools, those numbers, obviously that's a direct, correlation, right? Those numbers are down. You mentioned St. Vincent's, those programs kind of have risen and shrunk, in different years, but, St. Vincent's, over the last couple of years, has been down, football participation and such. So certainly has a huge impact. And I think we see within the diocese, I think Fort Wayne area, with Bishop Dwenger and Bishop Lewis, there's some opportunity there for parents to make other decisions. You know what I mean? So certain schools intended to feed into, Dwenger, or certain schools intended to feed into Lures. And there's been a little bit of crossover there lately as well. And some of that I think is influenced by the culture, to be honest. The sports culture, if you will, and some of the things where, we get into other just topics of single sport athletes and things like that. I think we're seeing all of that. All of those are reasons why I think we're starting to see we've seen a little bit of influx in our numbers for sure. This year we're sitting at 37 freshmen. When I coached freshmen back in 2012, we started with, I think, over 50 and ended with 40 some. And it was pretty common to be in that 45 to 50 range. To be under 40 the last 2 years, I think we had 39 last year. Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah, that's a lot of number difference. That's I'm not a math major, never planned to be, but that jumps off the page at you for sure. But you're still bringing in top level players. You mentioned the single sport athlete. Dwenger prides themselves on multi-sport athletes. You also coach baseball. You have plenty of players that do both basketball and football as well. Some kids getting into rugby in the spring, which is a new outlet for some kids, which I absolutely love. And I'm sure you do as a football coach. You may those kids that are playing rugby aren't coming out for your baseball team anyway. So might as well get a little extra.
A lot of those guys are playing defense this year. You got that right.
Right. And Coach, before we talk about the upcoming game here against Northside, which is going to be an outstanding matchup, I wanted to point Thomas Pori. I wanted to touch on real quick. He's not slight of frame, I guess is the word you would use. He's not 250 pounds. But watching him play against Moeller and even Brownsburg, he really can slide away from contact and really reads the snap well along with that. Talk about Tommy Pori and what he means to that defensive line.
Well, he's the cornerstone, and that was a big reason why I think we did so well, early on, especially the first 3 quarters there against Moeller. Tommy was back. We get Groves back this Friday. But to your point, Tommy's long. I think his greatest attribute is just, his relentlessness. He is a fantastic, amazing human being. He reminds me a lot of Eli Dow's from a couple years ago. Eli's playing D-line at 215, and we're trying to put weight on him. He's pound for pound the strongest guy on the team. Eli Dow's is now, I think, 250, 260, starting down at Ave Maria, and he won the Gyrene Challenge. And, wish you'd done that a couple years ago here. But anyway, I think Tommy's in the same, kind of that same, he's of the same mold, right? He's long, he's relentless. We say all the time, for our defensive line, I talk to Fabini all the time, like, these got to be the three guys that you and I would hate to block, obviously I would hate to block. Now Fabini might be all right, but what I'm talking about.
He'd be fine. He'd be fine.
It's Corey and Nick Pelkington, and now we got Gunnar McCarthy, and we got guys that are just absolutely relentless. They're long. They're it's speed too. As an offensive lineman, the last thing you want to be blocking is somebody who gets leverage on you, is relentless. Coming at your thigh boards there all night long. You can't get your hands on them, and that's Tommy Pori and all those guys for sure. So he's a cornerstone. We were so happy to get him back. He had a great game. I think he had 10 holding calls against him that didn't get called. He was challenging Moeller's tackles for sure.
I love that little snippet there, Coach. That's tremendous stuff.
That is a good game.
Cut that when you edit. But that's
we're live, Coach. We can't do that.
Oh, that's right.
Don't worry. There's only 300 watching.
Viewers, I see. Yeah.
And so the brothers and the cousins, that you're littered with them. Before we move on to Northside, we saw a Jordan to Jordan. And when Henry went out, we saw an O'Keefe to O'Keefe on a touchdown, actually. How special is that? I know their dads are jumping for joy. There's no question. But as a coach, a father of several children, you have a nice big family yourself that have gone through the sports realm. Talk about what that kind of means and that specialty type of stuff, because it doesn't happen everywhere like it does at Dwenger.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the lineage, right? I mean, you're talking about the tradition, the culture, and that's why, God willing, I don't mess it up, 7th year, that's the stuff that has to carry on. That's what makes Bishop Dwenger football. Those dads in the stands, the vast majority of them played football. They got to experience success. They know the traditions. They have raised their sons with, the Bishop Dwenger onesie all the way through the Fit gold helmet to the Dwenger gold helmet. And, it's part of it's just part of who they are. It goes with all the kids running around, playing around the stadium. So it's special, and it's humbling. It's something that, as a head coach, you're entrusted with, and I always do my best to try to take care of that and pray a lot, and I always laugh too. Those are the dads we got to keep happy too, I'm just kidding, but they're special people, they want it for their kids. They support us. They push their kids. They're it's kind of like back in the day, if you got in trouble at school, you get in trouble at home.
Right.
If you go to Big Dwenger football and you're playing football and you come home, the dads are reinforcing, supporting, building up, challenging. They're making sure they carry the traditions. Play fast, play physical, play together. Let your pads do the talking. Battle through the injuries and battle through this and that. And so that's the blessing is we got families like that help carry the tradition forward, and support us. So it's special in a lot of ways.
And Coach, moving on to Friday, got a big one starting the Summit Athletic Conference. It's great to, it's one of the reasons why you guys schedule a Brownsburg and a Moeller is to get prepared for athletes like you're going to see Friday night at Northside. I happened to watch them last week, and hat for hat, athlete for athlete, they were hanging with Lawrence North. It was just the depth of Lawrence North really took over there in the second quarter. But Northside has a very special running back and a sophomore of Caleb Kingalay. We saw him 154 yards on 15 touches in that first half against a 6A Lawrence North team. How much has that been a focal point preparing for this offense? Also a running quarterback in Tristan Newsome.
You said a lot there, and you're spot on. For us this week, and to your point, you turn the film on and thanks be to God, it doesn't speed up. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, here we go again, really. A lot of similarities in what we faced. To your point, for us, Newsome is elusive. I know they want to get him some touches, get him outside the box, get him on the run, get it over the top, get him in the running game. And then, when you're paying attention to that, then yeah, they're going to run downhill. It's probably the most downhill running from a Northside team that I can ever remember. I mean, I turned it on and the quarterback's under, and here we go with dive, and here we go with, a little bit of look like veer, and I'm like, wow, this is a Northside team that looks a little bit like Dwenger going downhill. And so, then that sets up the play action and throwing it over the top. So, the focal point always starts in the box for us. You got to win in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So, got to stop the run, and then we got to make sure that we're right on the back end. The times that we've gotten beat over the top the last 2 weeks have just been young mistakes. It hasn't been schematics. It's been over aggressive or biting here or there against a good scheme coming at us. And we know that they're going to take a few shots as well as soon as we start over concentrating or over committing to the run. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge. They're going to come downhill on us. He's going to run hard. Obviously, he's going to get his yards. In some ways, a bend don't break kind of a mentality. We haven't broken through the turnover category yet. We've got to get a couple turnovers against these guys. But it's gonna be stop the run, make sure we're gap sound, make sure we're filling the alleys because we don't want to get them loose on the edge, especially the quarterback. So great challenge.
Coach, the last couple years, this game, Northside and Bishop Dwenger, has been one of the most exciting games during the regular season. Do you feel a little bit different of a buzz right before this game the last couple of years, or do you attribute anything to that?
I personally don't feel a different buzz. I mean, we know what we're walking into. We're going to Northside, new field, well coached. As you guys have said, athletes, everywhere, great size. We know we're coming into. It's a great rivalry. It's not sneaking up on us. The buzz is the same for us. And at the end of the day, it's game 3. It's another big opponent, and we got to get better. And we got to improve. And guys that are asked to step up are asked to do their job and do their best. So, but yeah, the buzz is the buzz, man. It's SAC football. It's Northside Dwenger. It goes back to the Schwarzkopf days and before that. I mean, I can remember my senior year playing Northside, and they beat us, and it was for the bell. And it's one of the great rivalries in the city and throughout the state. So, I thank God we've had the opportunity to be in the environments we've been in. To go down to Brownsburg, that's an experience and an encounter in itself. And then, to have a packed house and have Moeller come in. So I don't think the lights will be too bright, but it's definitely a big game, be a great challenge.
Was that 1992? Was that your senior year?
No, 87. Well, I graduated in 88, so it was the 87 year. We lost in semi-state. I want to talk about that tonight. Don't bring that up.
No, but growing up, Tim can attest, we saw some great matchups between Dwenger and Northside with Rico Talamontes and Kevin Coretta and all those names.
One of my best friends growing up was Scott Allday. He's a fire detective here in town down at Station 1, and that was my senior year. He was at Northside. I went to St. Jude's and could have went to Northside, but Mama said, no. You're gonna go to Dwenger. You need some more discipline. So that's where I went. But could have been a Redskin. But anyway, yeah, no, it goes way back. It's Dwenger Northside.
Yeah, the St. Jude's Northside, that's kind of interchangeable with Bishop Dwenger. We know that's right.
Right.
We both had a good friend, Wes Swigert, who played at St. Jude's and he starred over at Northside.
He's on the staff.
He got rid of all his red and white. He got rid of all his red and white. Just like our Snyder guys. That's part of the deal. before they leave my office. I want it all on there. I don't want to see any more of those colors.
Yeah, speaking of, Akeem Kelsaw, your offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
I like what he's doing, but yeah, another Snyder guy. It doesn't matter where they come from, Coach. It matters if they can coach, and you'll bring them in if they can coach.
Yeah, we got a great coaching staff, man. First of all, they're great men. That's what you got to have great men. You got to have great men, and then everybody can go to YouTube and get some drills.
Right.
Got to be good men.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And then flipping on, on the offensive side of the side of the ball, it looked like against Moeller, it wasn't the same old Dwenger stuff, quote unquote, I guess you would say, for the naysayers out there. There was a lot of mix. Looking at Shefferly out of the backfield, very strong kid. Max Jordan there, a nice tall target for your quarterbacks. It looks like the play action on first down there in the red zone, I believe it was early in the game. I love how you guys are not afraid just to go and get it. It's not playing to lose. It's not playing possession ball. It's about putting Dwenger in the best position to win, and spreading that ball around really looks like that's the recipe this year.
Yeah, and I think Coach Kelsall, it's balance, right? I think that we talk a lot about that, and given that, I think that's been the vision and still remains the vision. We're going to make some adjustments, obviously, with personnel and things that we have available for Friday night. And at the end of the day, you find yourself as you go through the season, and having been through the 2 games that we've been through already, it really helps you evaluate, go back to your play sheets and your schematics to what's working, what's not, what can the personnel give us, and what are they not able to give us. And I mean, we got that with a fire hose the last 2 weeks. So I think you'll see a little bit more traditional Dwenger football this Friday night. We know we got to win the box. We got to win in the trenches. We expect them to load the box, obviously, and go man. They got the athletes to do that. So it's going to be a man's game Friday night. We're going to challenge our guys and get back to some basic Bishop Dwenger football. We have to.
Yeah, and they're very talented on defense as well. James Early Jr. Up there on that defensive line is an absolute beast. He's very hard to block. Josh Masasu sitting behind him. They're a very fast defense. And not only that, they've had a lot of reps since their freshman year. These are they're veterans for Northside. How much is that defense? Is it more going in? We're playing Dwenger's game. Does it really matter what the defensive is, or are you making special adjustments because of those type of athletes and tackle machines?
Yeah, I think you hit on the head. I think we want to establish the line of scrimmage. But we will make the adjustments necessary, right? And we're going with plan A, B, C, and D.
Right.
But we want to establish a line of scrimmage. And, again, you mentioned those guys. You mentioned all the names that we've been talking about all week, and schematically how to attack them the best way we can. And, and then set up some ways that Nick can get comfortable in the passing game. He does some special things for us. When we can get him outside the pocket, he gives us a little bit different look from a quarterback perspective, and he's not afraid. Yeah. So we'll see. I think where we win this game is in the trenches and in the box.
So, Coach, you're saying we're expecting a run-heavy game here from Bishop Dwenger, control the clock and try to eat up as much as possible.
He's just setting up Northside on that.
That might be one of the plans.
Hey, it's a good philosophy when you got an ex-NFL lineman as your offensive line coach.
Yeah, it helps.
I'd have to say.
It helps a lot.
Coach,
if he's a great man. We're humbled to have him. He's a great man.
He really is. Always has been. And Coach, if you could pick out one name that we're going to be talking about Saturday morning after this game from Bishop Dwenger, maybe somebody that doesn't just jump out at you on the stat sheet like a Gus Tittman, your starting running back, But who's one person do you think like this game could be tailor-made for, that they can come up and have a big game, even if it's on special teams? Because like you said, Coach, one big turnover could be the difference in that game, especially if it's on special teams.
Yeah, when you speak about special teams, we're blessed to have a great kicker. You know, he's hit 3 field goals, hit 2 at Brownsburg, you know, in a game that, in an environment that wasn't the best, and just stepped in there and nailed it. I think he's 5 of 8 on touchbacks with the kickoff. He's a weapon. Yeah. So that he's, you know, if it comes down to that, he's got a big leg, and he could be that guy. Some guys on that defense come to mind. Nick Pelkington, Gunnar McCarthy, Tommy Pori. You know, I mentioned we get Groves back. Doug Henry's been playing outstanding. I think it'll be some of those guys on defense that will rise to the occasion, especially in the box. And from an offensive line perspective, you know, we got Big Stauffer and Morris at our guards, and so you know, Big Weimer at tackle. So we got some guys. When I think about your question, I think about it'll be one of those guys in the box. I'm guessing it'll be one of those guys on the defensive side, one of those relentless D linemen or linebackers. I'm hoping they'll have a great night.
Yeah, and Coach, you know, one of my last questions here. You know, Dwenger's known for traveling. I know this is only a couple miles apart. You know, the 2 high schools. Yeah. You know, we've seen the other side of things throughout our coverage at Summit City Sports, and, you know, just a handful of people in the stands. Talk about what it means to the kids, to the coaching staff, to Bishop Dwenger High School, with that backing that you guys have year in and out. You could go and win 2 games, and they're going to be there to support you. Talk your feelings about the Dwenger, the fandom out there.
Well, we're very blessed. You know, and I look at just the Moeller night. We know we got, you know, a network that's, you know, guys devoted to trying to stream the games, you know, through our school. You know, the support we've had, gosh, it's going back to the stadium. You know, we talked about the family support, the traditions. It's loved. It's you know, we lost one of our longtime fans, and you know, talking about honoring her at homecoming, and you know, it goes way back. It means a lot. And as you mentioned, just traveling a couple miles down the road, and there's, you know, the old CC and Northside and Dwenger, and there's a lot of people that are familiar with one another. Let's say it that way. And we're blessed. We know our side will be packed, and you know, they support us through the thick and thin, and that's just a great blessing. And it's just one of those great traditions of Bishop Dwenger. You know, you're going to have family after family, a lot of lineage, you know, grandfathers, great grandfathers in the stands that played. We got Joe Sweeney on our staff. He was part of the 67, 68 city championship teams. You know, so we got guys on our coaching staff, guys in the stands, guys running our, you know, different things on the network and things. It's just, they talk about family at Bishop Dwenger, and football's, you know, at the top of those conversations when you talk about family at Bishop Dwenger.
Yeah, and family oriented. I mean, you have Shields Field, the Jumbotron and the scoreboard. That's just outstanding right there. That was donated. You know, the alumni don't go anywhere for Bishop Dwenger. I guess my last question on that is that ever talked about with the coaching staff and the kids on, hey, don't take this type of stuff for granted. There's not a lot of kids that have this ability to be able to play in front of a full packed stands every single game, and not only fully packed, very into the game.
Yeah, you know, the thing that comes to mind when you ask that question, Tim, is last Friday we call it the D zone. We have the crucifix that was put up by a family. That young man is now entering the priesthood, the seminary. He was his Boy Scout project, you know, and he built the crucifix. We're down there in the D zone, and you know, I'm just kind of pondering and praying as I'm walking down there, just what to say, and, you know, trying to get ready for Moeller next day and things like that. And my phone's just, you know, vibrating in my shorts. And, you know, by the time I get down there, I already looked at a couple of the messages, and I ended up getting over a dozen messages of just, guys, whether they were prior with us as coaches or players or friends of mine, guys I played with, it's everybody, just how proud they were, of how hard the guys played Friday night, that they represented Bishop Dwenger football. And I, at the end of the day, one of my comments, my main comment was just how those guys inspired a lot of people tonight, and they represented, God, their family name, and Bishop Dwenger very, very well. And that's to your point, it's not about us. It's back to what Jeff said early on. It's we over me, and this is something we're all kind of entrusted with to push forward and carry on, is all those great traditions. And I'll end with this, one of the great traditions, and you talk about Andy Johns. Andy Johns is sitting down in the end zone on all the home games. God bless him, and Coach Schwarzkopf's usually there. So those guys support us. And I'll never forget it. My first year in 18, we do these game day experiences, and Coach Andy was the first one. And so I think we might have been heading to Northside. I look over as we're on the bus, and one of the traditions is once you get close to the stadium, you snap your chin straps. Now it's snap and zip with all the fancy helmets, but we start snapping and zipping. And out of the corner of my eye, we're sitting in the same little school bus seat. So I'm half cheek on the one side, and I just see somehow fall out of the corner of my eye, and I look over, and it's just crocodile tears falling out of his face. And he said, it just never gets old. It just never gets old.
Mm-hmm.
No, coach, it never gets old, and it's just those moments like that where I'm humbled and pray to God that I don't mess it up, and try to carry it as well as I can, and encourage these guys to keep carrying the traditions forward. To your point, win or lose, we're going to play hard like we did Friday night. You're going to have to kill us, as we say, and we're still in the process. It's week 3. The outcomes don't matter until week 10. So we're going to keep building and keep fighting, and we're going to be Buffalo tomorrow, Friday night. So we'll see what happens.
Coach, you talk about the snap of the chin straps. I got to ask you, were the guys allowed to talk on the way home from Brownsburg? Because that was a tradition too.
So those long trips, Jeff, I got to tell you, the traditions, they don't wear the helmets all the way down, and we kind of lighten some of those traditions on the way back. It's a different time. It'd been a long bus ride back in the day with your helmet on, sitting quiet. So, probably would have got some emails on that. So no, we got to feed them pizza and get them a pillow and stuff. We'll get them home.
All right, Coach, my last question. Obviously, Snyder's announced that they're going to have a new stadium built on their campus. Yours happened a few years back. It's absolutely beautiful stadium, long overdue for the Bishop Dwenger Saints, who storied program for the most part. Every game was an away game for Bishop Dwenger. But obviously, you're blessed to have a great stadium. I'm sure you love it. If there was one thing that could have been done different in the stadium, what would that one thing have been? And what's the number one thing that you love about Shields Field? Because we do know, Coach, everybody's got an opinion. I could probably tell you 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 things that maybe I'd have done differently.
Gosh, man, I've never thought you'd stump me, man. I don't want to. Oh man, let me think about this.
No, that's one of my favorite things.
How about an air-conditioned coaching office out there where I can go hide a little bit?
Hey, that's my favorite.
I need a little man cave every now and then. I find myself out there in the restroom or something, but a little coach's office where I could shut the door and, respond to the friendlies and the non-friendlies would be great. No, I'm just kidding. But we talked about, a little bit more space out there, locker room, kind of a facility, because we've kind of outgrown the one inside. So, that would be something, and maybe a little bit of coach's office, little film opportunity. We got a little TV hanging in our team room, but just a little more space. At the time, in 18 we had 76 players, and now we've been close to 100 every year with varsity, a little over, a little under. So that'd be the only thing. And the thing I love about it, I'll be honest, when it was one of the first games out there we had, I was so amazed that, and this is just me, maybe it's oversimplified, but how the lighting doesn't spill. When you're on the field and the game's going on, I mean, you think you're at Michigan. Like, it's like fans are all the way around. You don't know that Washington Center Road and Clinton, you don't know the busiest intersections there. You don't. It's just, and then you get the music pumping and the crowd and, kind of like Lucas Oil, you can't hear anything on the field. So just the environment that's been created for us, it is, and I'm not saying this as bias, I don't know that there's a better place. And the fact that, you take a Carroll, it's a little bit smaller than Carroll. So it just feels like it's a little bit more enclosed, like it's a, full stadium. So I love it. I love the atmosphere. It's beautiful.
It takes me back to the 2021 season, and you get a sectional championship 42-20 over Snyder.
Thanks for bringing that up. That makes me feel good tonight. Man, I forgot about that.
Was that one of your best?
Hanging in my wall, the first postseason game against Snyder. How much more time you guys got to talk about that? Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, but was that one of your most favorable?
Don't show that to Kurt. We've been a rough ride the last couple of years with him. Hey, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, was that one of your favorite experiences at Shields Field? That game right there, that was electric.
No question. I mean, as you say that, I see KJ Tittman going down the sideline, and I think I'm in the green. I'm on the field. So, I'd have got kicked out, last Friday night with those referees. But, I mean, I'm running down the sideline. When he dove into the end zone, I mean, I tell my wife all the time, sometimes these games, I don't need to get a physical. I mean, I survived, that game. I survived that moment. I mean, I didn't pull a hammy. I don't have a heart attack. But yeah, you talk about electric, and then just to lay at the 50-yard line. I remember laying back. I saw the picture in my office. Kind of, it was the first postseason game against Snyder. We talked a lot about that first game. In that, at Shields Field and all that, and just to lay back and have all the guys around, and it was a special moment. There's been some big moments. Last year, how in the world, we were blessed to. Hold off Homestead there at the end, and thanks be to God because we had fireworks planned. God is good. God is good. I kept saying, "Are we really going to do that, win or lose?" Yep. I'm like, "Oh Lord, have mercy on my soul." Okay, I'll do whatever you guys want to do, but why, But there's been some special moments. I think going into last season, all the firsts, so. We had a long stay. This is the first game against so-and-so, first game against – I think we were able to win all of those. I've got a lot of pictures on my wall of the first, and, we've been able to build a few new traditions, how we come from the tree on home games. And, you started this with, Kurt. They'll have an opportunity to do some new special things, coming out of your own school. It's game day is different. I mean, not getting on a – it's just – and then you get to build some of that tradition, of what that home game looks like. You get to bring in Black Hawk helicopters and do all kinds of other stuff,
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time. Extremely busy, short week for you with Labor Day, but we're really excited about Friday night. Unfortunately, I will not be there. I will. I got pulled from that game, but Tim's going to be there, and we wish you the best of luck, Coach.
Hey, I appreciate you guys a lot. Thanks for all you do and all your support. And Tim, we're going to throw it about 60 times Friday night, so get ready.
Coach Johnson actually just came onto the stream.
What's up, Coach? I was just kidding.
Thanks, Coach Garrett. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one, Coach. Well, that was head coach Jason Garrett, Bishop Dwenger Saints. And Tim, you're going to have a fun one there because the last 2 seasons, that game has been one of the premier games in the SAC. And you have a lot of star power over at Northside. And we know Dwenger is going to be playing as one cohesive unit.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Jeff. Just watching some of the film, I'm telling you, I really like this Dwenger team. The Brownsburg, I mean, that's, as you mentioned, the #1 ranked team now in Class 6A. It's a different animal. I really like what they did against Moeller. They adjusted from Brownsburg to Cincinnati Moeller. Moeller is a very tough team as well. I mean, there's no question about it. They're strong, they're big, they're athletic. But come Chambers Field Friday night, if Dwenger can, as Coach mentioned, stay penalty free, all right, win that battle and win the turnover battle, I really like Dwenger's chances to pull that game at Chambers Field. But it is not going to be easy. Northside coming off that disappointing loss on the way they played against Lawrence North last Friday night.
For one half.
It was canceled at half. But, I mean, these types of games to start the conference play, if as a player and as a kid, if you can't get up for this type of game, I don't know what to tell you. You're probably in the wrong sport. But I really do. I 100% agree with Coach Garrett that this game is going to be decided in the box. Caleb Kingley, we can't talk about him enough, Jeff. I know it, for people that have listened to us all the time, they're probably, all right, enough with Caleb Kingley. Go watch him play, folks. Yeah. The kid is extremely special. And if Newsom can start making that adjustment of, instead of when he gets out of that pocket, like we saw against Lawrence North, just tuck that ball, get yourself a first down, move on to the next one. Don't try to fit it in against these DBs, Bishop Dwenger. And I'm sure Coach Johnson and his staff has talked to Tristan about just make the right play, tuck it, and we'll live even if it's a 3-4 yard game. That's better. That's better than trying to fit it in and get an interception, because if you lose a turnover battle, anybody that's watched football for more than 30 seconds know if you lose a turnover battle, it's 99.9% chance you're going to lose the game.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy unless you're the greatest show on turf. But, Tim, when you look at Northside in that offense, I got to believe Malik Moore, the super sophomore, comes in with 6 receptions for 93 yards and a touchdown on the season.
Right.
If he can pick up about 6 receptions per game the rest of the season, you really got to like Northside's chances in the small division of the Summit Athletic Conference. Yeah,
Malik Moore, just 6 catches through 2 games, 93 yards. His size and athleticism is unquestionable. You put Pearson on that other side, you have some dangerous weapons that makes defensive coordinators lose sleep at night when they're preparing for a team like this. And then you got Kingley in the backfield with Newsom can run it, and has shown the ability to throw the ball very well. We saw that in that first matchup that they had up in Middlebury against Northridge. So, like I said, though, it's going to come down to the trenches. Can the Saints offensive line handle the defensive line of Northside, and then vice versa?
Well, and with Northside, you have the 2 outstanding defensive ends. Now, we didn't get to see Leslie Woodson play last week. He was in a boot. I'm not sure if he's going to play this week. Right. Tim's talked about James Early. He's one of the top seniors in the state of Indiana. That interior defensive line, Tim, is a little bit lighter than maybe what I saw on Saturday at New Haven. I think New Haven's interior defensive line is outstanding with McGrant and Jesus Diaz. Northside a little bit lighter on the interior defensive line, but they make up for that with their great linebackers, including Josh Masasu.
Yeah, Masasu, he's had probably a slower start to the season, just numbers wise. But go watch some tape. The offense is keying on Josh Masasu. They know where Josh Masasu is at every snap. If you don't know where he's at every snap, that's when he's going to hurt you. And that opens up the rest of his teammates to make some great plays. You saw Jashawn Early get a interception out there at safety in that first quarter against Lawrence North.
Jashawn
Early, yep. Tremendous defensive backfield as well. With Northside, hat for hat, they really matched up well with Lawrence North. It was just a bit too much come that second quarter. Then Lawrence North started really taking over. So it's going to be interesting to see. But this is why we love, Jeff, having the 2 non-conference games to start the season. We get an idea, of what they're like. But this is against top-level competition. Now you go in the SAC, you can see kids being more comfortable and their positions, because it's like, okay, I don't have a Shanklin across from me as a right tackle. I don't have, as a left tackle, I don't have J.J. Finch for Warren Central on the left side. These types of weeks are really going to prepare, I believe, for the long haul in the Summit Athletic Conference. There's no question. I love Coach Garrett, and I'm glad you asked him that about who their upcoming games are going to be against in the future. And you nailed it before we went on with Chittard, having that Catholic school, and then also a Catholic school up in Toledo. So, but it's the same thing with Northside. You play Northridge, very strong squad up in Middlebury, hard place to play. You host Lawrence North with the outstanding athletes, a top 5 team in Class 6A. This prepares you for the Summit Athletic Conference, then into sectionals, then into regional, semi-state, and ultimately a run to Indianapolis.
Yeah, and we saw it last year. I mean, the Saints nearly went into Leo and pulled off an upset. Leo kind of ran away with it towards the end of the game, but Bishop Dwenger very much in that one all game long. And the Saints will be in sectional 19 with Columbia City, Wayne, Leo, DeKalb, East Noble, New Haven, and Southside. So once again, sectional 19 will be brutal. The best 4A sectional in the state.
Yeah, I mean, stacked is the word that I see when that tough places to play as well. A lot of environments that have great alumni. Go play at New Haven. Go see how many people are on that home side at New Haven High School. I mean, it's those types of Columbia City. My goodness. I mean, you're talking about a whole area in one stadium. We saw that a couple years ago in a sectional game against Leo. And you got one of the better players in Northeast Indiana and Stratton Fuller there at Columbia City. I mean, we could go on and on. Just such a gauntlet to come out of that sectional, Jeff. But it's games like these first 2 weeks and then running in the SAC. This is what prepares you to make the runs. Yeah,
I'm telling you, you do not want to play New Haven. DJ Simpson, Navion Gibson, that's a 1-2 punch. Ouch.
Yeah.
So, well, folks, we appreciate you for joining us. That was Tim Atkinson. We had head coach Jason Garrett on, 2018 state championship coach with the Bishop Dwenger Saints. I'm Jeff Mahoney. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and make sure to get out to your game this Friday. Bishop Dwenger's going to be at Chambers Field at Northside, 7 p.m. kickoff. You don't want to miss it. Yep. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.